For the longest time now, I believed that I had ADHD. You probably heard of this disease or genetic thing, whatever you want to call it. A lot of children have it, some young adults have it. But we'll soon discover that this is actually not real, and it's simply just impatience. And a lot of you viewers right now watching have impatience, and you can't even focus on this video right now. You want to scroll down to the comments, you're already looking at the videos on the the thumbnails on the side. You're already getting distracted, and this is simply just impatience. I remember all throughout my childhood, I kept jumping from hobby to hobby. I kept getting bored of the thing that I was doing, and I was just going on to the next thing, like trying to multitask, which is actually impossible. And then remember like playing basketball with my friends. I would play basketball and I'd be okay like shooting the shots, but I would get so distracted because like the slightest thing could happen in the corner of my eye and I would just get distracted. And this would not work in a basketball game because you need to be in tune with your surroundings. You need to be self-aware. You need to be aware of what's going on around you, and I was not. And this was me just simply being impatient and wanting everything right then and right now. So I'll have a slide ready. We'll have a look at ADHD. We'll have a look at impatience. ADHD is a fairly new discovery. It's only been there for like 100 or 200 years, but a lot has happened in our world in 100 to 200 years, even less. ADHD has only started like gaining research in the past 50 years, but a lot has happened in those 50 years that our world has become so busy. It's become like fluttering around with like cars going by and advertisements, billboards. You have so many distractions around you, especially what we have right now. Whatever you're watching this video on, your phone, your computer, it's all a very big distraction. So we'll now look at the difference between ADHD and impatience, and we'll try and see what you have, because I'm pretty sure you have impatience. So stay tuned. Welcome to the presentation. This is impatience versus ADHD. I believe that patience is the most important asset that we can have as human beings. Patience is so important because it can help us build our hobbies, it can help us build our businesses, it can help us just live a fulfilling life. And impatience is the complete opposite of that. When we are impatient, we are unable to complete a task fully. We are unable to focus on something that is very meaningful to our lives. So we will now look at the difference between impatience and ADHD. I believed that I had ADHD for like many years of my life, but I discovered that I just was a very impatient person and that I really needed to fix this problem. So I will go through the ways of how you can fix impatience and also the differences between the two. So impatience versus ADHD, the misconception of the world's biggest lie. So impatience. There are so many distractions in this world. As our world is progressing into more and more into the future, we have more and more distractions. So look outside. How many distractions do we have outside? Quite a lot. Cars going up and down, advertisements, just overstimulation. Go to a grocery shop, you see so many different colors, so many different people. It's just complete overstimulation. Whenever we are at home, we have complete overstimulation with our devices, like the computer and our mobile phone. Those two are very demanding of our brains because they give you so much information in one particular time that it's just your brain cannot cope. So this gives us a little bit of a difficult time to focus on one particular thing, and it'll also make us bored at one thing. So it gives us a lot of options and we become bored easily, so we keep switching our options. So this creates a habit of being bored at one particular thing, and you have such easy access to the other thing on your mobile device especially, that you just say, okay, bored of that, click the app out, go on the other app. Okay, bored of that now, another app. Okay, that's it, another app. So this gives you a habit of very poor patience. So this is what I mean by many distractions. Overstimulation of the brain, this is exactly what I just mentioned with your mobile devices, your computer. Especially video games are very overstimulating because you're just... things are so unnatural. Like, things in your video game do not happen in real life, and there's just too much going on. If people say you're relaxing while playing video games, this is the biggest lie I've ever heard. So sorry for distracting you from this video, but please consider subscribing to this channel, liking this video. It will really help the algorithm, and it will also help to push my videos to more viewers so they can get educated about my content. Not only will this help the algorithm, but will also make me very happy, so thank you. Get back to the video. You do not relax while playing video games, and especially your brain really doesn't relax. So just too much going on, your brain is trying to cope, and you're still stuck in those primitive times where our brains are still able to process like one particular task at a time. So yeah, the world is only getting busier. This causes us to be unable to be in touch with ourselves due to the distractions of the world around us. So being in touch with ourselves, just having us and us alone, is very fulfilling. Because when you're in touch with your own self, when you're in touch with your mind, your body, you have like even mind-muscle connection. You're able to like go to the gym and really focus on your building your muscles because you have the perfect mind-muscle connection. You really feel the contraction of your muscle. You feel your arm extending and your muscles extending. It's the same thing with your body and your mind connection. It's really important to be in touch with ourselves, and devices like mobile phones and distractions that we have around us really put us out of touch with ourselves, because this is an outside thing coming in. It's not like within us. So I hope that makes sense to you. We crave dopamine and stimulus constantly just because we are already adapting to all of this dopamine around us. We're already getting it, so we crave it. We are addicted to dopamine. We are creatures that constantly want some kind of pleasure. We're like really bad at receiving no pleasure. It's like you can't sit still and just focus on one thing, because you focus on that one thing. Okay, oh, maybe someone messaged me. You grab your phone and you check your phone, you start scrolling, and then you get distracted. You grabbed your phone already, and then you're like, oh, I just wanted to check a message, but I'm already on Instagram scrolling. You know, we crave that dopamine. We're so used to it, and it's just those distractions, they build up, and the more you live like this, the more it will become difficult to get out of this situation. The constant pursuit of dopamine makes us intolerant to boredom. Boredom equals solitude and reflection, which is necessary. So when you're bored, when you're like not doing anything, when you're literally sitting and staring at a wall, when you're performing a breathing exercise, when you're doing yoga, this is like low stimulus activities that are considered as boredom sometimes, because you're not really doing too much. You're only in touch with yourself, and people nowadays consider this to be boredom, but it's very, very far from boredom. This is actually building your patience. And I've discovered this so much because one of my good friends, he showed me a yoga practice that I now do every single day. It's like an hour. It's called like hatha yoga, and it all takes 1 hour, but it really helps you stay in touch with yourself. It really helps you to just learn not to be distracted by things around you, because when you're finished, you're so calm. You just appreciate what you have. You don't need more. Obviously, as the day goes on, it becomes more difficult, but it's a really, really good way of starting your day. So it's called hatha yoga, Hatha yoga. Should look into it if you wanted to get into yoga. It really helps. So reflection is necessary, because reflection is what helps us to change as human beings, and change is good, and a lot of people are afraid of change. So reflection is so important, because this is what helps us to recover from past mistakes and to build a better life. Basically, it's as simple as that. So when you reflect on something, you're like, okay, I did this one thing wrong, let's not do this thing again. But if you don't reflect, you kind of forget about this one thing that you did wrong and you repeat it again. It's like an addict never self-reflects. He doesn't go, oh, well, I've just injected heroin, so, you know, what did this heroin do to me? Well, he can't self-reflect because he's off his head, first of all. So yeah, self-reflection is very necessary. And lack of reflection equals trouble, because when you don't reflect to anything, when you don't reflect to your life, you really don't know what's going on in your life. Like, simply put, it's very simple, but you know, it can be difficult for some people. And ADHD is said to be the cause of us being unable to focus on a particular task for a prolonged period of time, and this is a newfound disease, or whatever you want to call it. So we're unable to focus on a particular task for a prolonged period of time. We get bored easily, and we want to put this task away and switch to the new task. And then we get bored of this task and get switched to the new task. But if you keep living life like this and keep getting bored of one task, are you really going to build a good level of competence in this one task? No, of course not. This disease only came about due to the ever-increasing number of distractions, examples, social media, this word, P-O-R-N, overall, just media, telephone use, gaming. This is what causes ADHD. This is what, like, do you see the rising numbers of ADHD prescriptions? I've researched this topic quite a lot, and especially in the United States of America. So many people are being prescribed Adderall and all these different ADHD numbing prescriptions and medicines. They just numb your brain and they give you like this focus, which is like a drug. It's basically giving people a narcotic, which this is exactly what it is. It's drugging little children, and it can never be normal to drug little children. You know, you should never. Anyways, this is a different topic. I don't want to get like demonetized. YouTube is already not pushing my videos very much because I'm quite contradictory already. So I'll have to focus on this. Anyways, all of these things like gaming, they stimulate your brain so much, and they give you so many different things in one screen. Like when you're watching this one screen, you have so many things going on, so you don't become bored that easily. But this is like, think of gaming as doing 20 tasks at one time. It doesn't work. It really doesn't work. You're running, you're chatting to people, you're shooting, you're, you know, like looting chests, and you're like doing so many things at one time, which is really unnatural to us. So it just makes you bored of real life, because so much is happening in this one video game. When you turn this video game off, you go back to real life and you're like, wow, this is kind of boring. So you just turn your video game back on, and then you think that you have ADHD because you can't focus on real life. You know? Like, do you expect to play video games for 10 hours a day and then appreciate real life? No, you're not going to have as much stimulus in just going outside as gaming. So you're going to end up just gaming, because then you'll get addicted to the dopamine that you get from this one task, and then you'll keep wanting to do it. So, and then you say, I have ADHD because I can't focus when I go outside, or I can't focus when I go to my classroom and my teacher is talking and, you know, teaching me about this a certain subject like chemistry or maths. I can't focus on my teacher and I keep daydreaming about gaming. Well, obviously, because this is what you get the most dopamine from. So your dopamine resources are depleted to such an extent that when you go back to the classroom, you're like, well, where's the dopamine? Like, there's no dopamine. So yeah, those things never existed like 50 years ago. Neither did this disease. So did this word PORN exist 50 years ago in like digital form? No. Social media? No. Overall media, yes, like televisions and stuff, but that's kind of when it began. In America, the television was popularized, and then it spread to the whole world, and there we go. People like the TV more than real life. Whoop-de-doo. What a wonder. How did this happen? Obviously because the TV shows you like all of these new things and everything happening so fast, and like you can switch channels whenever you want to. You can't switch channels when you go outside. You can't switch channels in your own life. Telephone use gaming never existed 50 years ago. Coincidence? Probably not. Why you don't have ADHD? Because you are impatient and not sick with ADHD. Why are you impatient? Because of addiction to dopamine. You get bored easily because this dopamine that you are getting is not enough, and you constantly seek new dopamine. This is what Reels, Shorts, and TikToks are great at doing, providing you with a change of content suitable to your dopamine needs. So when you're on like Reels and like all of these things, you're shown like 100 things and it's all different topics. Your dopamine is like, oh, well, this is different and this is different. So like, do you really expect to enjoy real life when you're fed so much different information? Your dopamine resources again are depleted. There's none left. You go outside and it's so difficult to get pleasure from life because it's so easy to get pleasure from these things that are so easily accessible to us, but they're so damaging to our brains. I'm so scared of what's going to happen to our young generation. I am terrified. Everyone will now have ADHD. Short form content media is competing for your attention, or to say lack of attention. So YouTube, whatever, this is where you're watching the video now. I hope you don't click off this video and watch shorts, because this is not a good thing to do. So YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok are, and even Facebook, are currently competing amongst themselves to be like the #1 platform to show you short form content. And they don't care how they're going to achieve this #1 spot. They will show you so much content and they'll make this application so accessible. Like, you know when you're taking your phone into your hands and you have like this fingerprint scanner, it becomes so easy to unlock your phone. You're in an application within like 2 seconds already watching a video. And when you like used to have those, you know, other phones, how long did it take you to like send a text message? Like 1 minute at least, like 2 minutes. Now you can send one in like 10 seconds. So mobile phones overall and social media is becoming very accessible to make you, like, this is the easiest thing to get dopamine from. They don't care that you're going to go to the doctor and get like Adderall prescribed to you. They don't care that you're going to have like brain rot and you're going to have dementia at like, you know, 50. They don't care about these things. But, you know, you should. This short form content is becoming more popular. Mind is unable to focus on a longer duration task. So obviously when you're watching like a 10-second video on TikTok, are you going to be able to, like, you know, when you watch like, let's say 20 videos on TikTok, you know, are you going to be able to focus on a longer duration task, or will you want to go back to this pleasure that you get from TikTok or Instagram, which is easier accessible? Or are you going to like play guitar for like 1 hour? No. You're going to go to TikTok because this is going to give you pleasure at a quicker rate. It's easier. It's the easiest way of dopamine. You're not going to go and get better at guitar and like keep getting better, like playing 2 hours a day, keep getting better at this guitar, and like, okay, now I'm, you know, a professional. And trust me, the amount of pleasure you get from something when you focus on it for a long time is unbelievable. Like, I can give you an example. I quit watching Reels for like a month before. I stopped watching like all of those short videos for 1 month. Nowadays I watch maybe like 10 videos a day or maybe 5 videos a day. Like, my friends send them to me, so I open them up and I, you know, watch the video, whatever. But I didn't watch them for like 1 month. After 1 month of not watching them, I opened up the application, it was Instagram, and I checked how many like memes I got sent. I was like, wow, so much dopamine. Like, it was a rush of dopamine. I was like, my brain was like, whoa, and I found everything so funny. All because I was not starved of dopamine, but it was just overwhelming. Everybody will become impatient, which is very bad. So, and the mind will only be able to accept short bursts of information to satisfy the dopamine. So you will not be able to focus for a long time. You can only focus for a short time, which is basically called an attention deficit, an attention. Yeah, which is this attention deficit hyperactive disorder. So you're not able to focus, simply put. Why is impatience bad? Because this will be the main cause of lack of success. You will not be successful if you're not patient. Patience is success. If you're patient, you can build a business, you can build a good future, you can build a good set of hobbies. Very simple stuff. So it will be the main cause of your lack of success if you keep watching these short videos and stuff. Success only comes from hyper-focusing on one particular task. Hyper-focusing on one particular task, this is what I mean. Focusing on one particular task for like 2 hours straight, 3 hours straight. And if you do that every single day, just think of how good you'll be at this one particular task. Let's say you decide to be, I don't know, a watchmaker. Like you want to make watches. Or even, let's say, more simple, necklaces. You want to make necklaces. And you will start to learn how to make necklaces from YouTube 3 hours a day. Give it 1 month, you're already spending almost 100 hours on how to build these necklaces. You will become good at making these necklaces, and after like 3 months you're already 300 hours into making necklaces, you know, like learning how to make them. You buy equipment, blah blah blah. Then you sell these necklaces because you're so good at making them. You know, it's a simple example. You don't have to use necklaces. Like, learn guitar and learn it for 1,000 hours. You'll be able to make money from the skill. So just the same as necklaces, you'll be able to build a business because you're hyper focusing on this one task. If you are going to spread yourself out in like 10 tasks, like 10 hobbies, you are going to be pretty bad at all of them. Like, you'll be mediocre at best. So hyper focusing at one task is impossible when you don't have patience. Think of all the successful people like athletes and businessmen. So athletes, think of like Usain Bolt. How many hours a day does he train running? Think of like Magnus Carlsen, the chess player. How many hours a day does he play chess to become the #1 person in chess? You know, how many hours does Khabib Nurmagomedov train in, you know, UFC? How many hours a day did he train wrestling and you know, combat sambo when he was a kid? Like probably 10 hours a day. Or Mikey Musumeci, the jiu-jitsu guy. How long did he train jiu-jitsu when he was a kid to become the #1 guy at his weight category? Like 10 hours a day. He used to go back home from school, go to his garage 5 hours a day, after school even longer, training jiu-jitsu to become the #1. Are you going to become the #1 from sitting on TikTok? No. Getting riled up here. If we are impatient, we will just be unable to hyper-focus on that one task to make us successful, as our minds are not satisfied with that little dopamine. Impatience will mean that any task you do will produce a mediocre at best result. Patience leads to mastery of a skill or action, just like I described before. Like athletes, businesses. You will build something magnificent if you focus on that one particular task. Just don't, like, if you're going straight, don't go to the left or to the right. Keep going straight. Don't go to the left just to see, oh, what's on the left or what's on the right. Keep going straight. You know, hyper focus on that one task, then you'll be successful. How to fix this impatience or ADHD? Well, first of all, start by decreasing time spent on overstimulating activities like over-engagement on social media or gaming. Decrease your time that you spend on video games, on social media, watching these reels. Just simply decrease your time. Set a little time limit of like 10 minutes a day. Or if you're spending like 3 hours right now, set like 30 minutes a day you're allowed to be on your phone. You have things on your phone that show your activity on certain apps. Set a time limit and don't go over this time limit. Limit yourself. If you don't limit yourself, you're going to be lost. So decrease your time spent on overstimulating activities and stop taking your phone everywhere with you. Spend that time reflecting instead. Just stop taking your phone into the bathroom. Stop taking your phone into, like, when you go outside for a walk. Like, don't worry. Like, people are not going to need you all the time. Don't have that fear. Like, you think when you're in the shower, you're like, oh, I have so many great ideas. No, yeah, you have all of those ideas because people haven't created a waterproof phone yet that you can take into the shower and scroll TikTok on. This is why you have so many good ideas in the shower. You know, so don't take your phone with you everywhere. Do one task at a time. Multitasking is the biggest lie. Multitasking is impossible. No one can multitask. If you're multitasking, you're simply doing one task but doing the other task very, very poorly. Like if you're driving and you're talking on the phone, you are not focused on driving. You're very likely to crash. Or when you're talking, you're very likely to say some things. So it's impossible to multitask. This is a lie. Multitasking is the biggest lie. It's not possible. No one can do it. It's not possible. Do one task at a time. When you get mentally or physically exhausted from that one task that you're doing, that one task that you're hyper-focusing on, only then switch. Be honest and don't rely on dopamine to switch tasks. So when you're genuinely mentally or physically exhausted from this one task that you're hyper-focusing on that's making you more successful, only then switch tasks. Or even better, take a break and just sit down and relax. When you're finished that one task, when you become exhausted, don't just switch to another difficult task. Just relax for 10 minutes. Do some breathing, do some yoga for an hour, relax. Then switch your tasks and you can come back to the same task because then you'll get some rest and still hyper focus on that same one task. This is how success happens. You don't have to be happy while doing a task. This is a misconception that a lot of people have. I have to be happy whatever I'm doing. I have to be happy. I have to be happy. No, you don't have to be happy. Physical hard work is not making you happy. You'll be happy for like half an hour, but like you do not have to be happy doing a task that's going to make you successful in the end. It's happiness for men especially is quite rare. You don't have to be always happy. And if you try to always be happy, then I'm telling you, you will be very sad when you're sad. Because if you're going to be always happy, think about it. Always happy, always happy, always happy, and then something bad happens. Imagine how sad you will be. Because you don't have that balance. You always need a balance of happy and sad. Don't pick a task that you're only happy doing. That's a different video. It's like this one line means so much, but that's a separate video because people have a misconception that happiness is like number one. You have to be happy. No, like being happy is not a priority because certain tasks require us to be, just hard work. When you're like in the gym, training really hard, you're not like happy. You're working hard. Anyways, different video. Engage in learning yoga or practice breathing techniques to relax the mind. So I've mentioned yoga quite a lot before and breathing techniques. So this will help you relax. This will help you to focus on yourself, focus on your breath. Like focusing on your breath is harder than you think because when you try and just breathing techniques, when you try to breathe and not think about anything, this is way harder than you think. Like ideas will keep infiltrating your brain and you have to keep like trying to just remain to think about breathing, and ideas will keep coming and you're like, okay, trying to push those ideas away and focus on your breath. It's really difficult. So the more you practice breathing techniques or yoga, the better you'll become at doing those things and the better you'll become at relaxing your mind. So obviously the more thoughts that come into your brain, the more work your brain has to do to process those thoughts. The less thoughts come into your brain, the less your brain has to work, equals the more relaxed your brain is, which means you relax, you rest, and then you're able to again focus on that one particular task. Simple stuff. The end. This is the end of the video. I hope you got something from this video. This is an easy concept, but it's very difficult to do right. So practice makes perfect. Try and do all of those things that I said. Obviously, do not say, okay, tomorrow I'm not going to use the phone, I'm not going to play video games, I'm not going to, do any bad habits, and try and, like keep this sustainable for a week. No, simply decrease little by little. Say, okay, tomorrow I'll spend 1 hour less on my phone. The next day I'll spend 2 hours less on my phone. The next day I will not use my phone, like I'll only use my phone for half an hour. So simple steps. Don't go cold turkey and say I'm quitting everything. This will starve your brain of dopamine and you will relapse quite quickly. So it's like a drug addiction. You don't want to, go cold turkey all the time. It's quite dangerous actually. So simple steps, decrease that dopamine intake and start hyper focusing on one task, because I promise you that you will be very successful. And this is what I'm working on myself. I'm learning to be more patient as a human being, because I know I will gain massive success from being patient, because so many people are impatient. I will be way ahead of everyone that's impatient, because I will have the patience and they will not. This will make me very successful, and I will also learn how to hyper focus on certain tasks that are important to me, that will build my success. It's just all about picking that one task that you want to do. Pick that one task, become a master, and your life will change. Thanks for watching. The end.